Bien fuerte, güey. Su puta madre, güey. Su puta madre, güey. Verga. A la verga. A la verga. Ya tardó un chingo. Ya pasó. Verga. Madre, güey.
Esta güey pues se mueve un más.
Verga. ¿También? Dios.
Me está temblando. No manches, nunca. ¿Y Daniela? ¿Dónde está?
The moment a deadly earthquake struck Mexico late on Thursday. The 8.2 magnitude quake has triggered small tsunami waves off the coast and damaged some buildings. The epicenter was 76 miles southwest of the town of Pijijiapan in the southern state of Chiapas and at a depth of 21 miles. 4 people were killed in that state, the governor of Chiapas, Manuel Velasquez, said. 2 children also reportedly killed in the neighboring state of Tabasco. Mexico's Civil Protection Agency said the earthquake was stronger than a 1985 tremor that flattened large parts of Mexico City and killed thousands. Some buildings in the south of Mexico left severely damaged on Friday, and in Mexico City, people ran onto the streets in their pajamas as power went out in some neighborhoods. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said the tremor had triggered 0.7-meter high waves and warned that widespread hazardous tsunami waves were possible within 3 hours.
Very strong earthquake, one of the strongest I felt, and let me tell you, I was here in 1985 when that earthquake collapsed Mexico City. So, we're looking out for each other, all the neighbors, like what should we do, where should we stand? Because also, let me tell you that I live in an area in Mexico City that is considered one of the most dangerous ones, also with downtown Mexico City. This is an area next to the Angel of Independence for those who have been here. So it's, we are all in extreme alert.
So, Paulina, let me just be clear. When it struck, you were driving and then you pulled over and stood out in the streets. Where are you now? Have you been back to your apartment, which I understand is in a very old building? Have you been back to get a sense of whether there's any damage?
Yeah, I already checked the building and checked my apartment, and everything is fine here. I live in an old building. It's like 45 years old. But I know that security protocols were implemented by authorities already, so you can hear the helicopters and the ambulances and the police cars driving around this area.
Number 1. An earthquake occurs when 2 blocks of the earth slip past each other. Now, for most of the time, those blocks are together with friction, but they are building up energy because they are moving in different directions. When one block decides to slip, all of a sudden that energy is released by seismic waves, kind of like ripples on a pond, creating the earthquake. Number 2. An earthquake can occur very near the surface of the Earth. Those earthquakes are typically very destructive, or as deep as 400 miles down into the crust. Now, where the shaking actually happens, that's called the hypocenter, but directly above it on the surface, that's called the epicenter. Number 3. The power of an earthquake is called magnitude. Now, the intensity of the shaking can vary depending on the geography, the topography, or even the depth of the quake. Now, the USGS says there are 500,000 detectable quakes every year. 100,000 can be felt, and 100 will create damage. Number 4. Earthquakes themselves actually don't kill that many people. It's the natural and man-made structures that fall to the ground during the shaking that injure and kill. Number 5. The majority of all earthquakes and volcanoes happen along plate boundaries. The largest is the Pacific Plate and its series of boundaries all along the...
Back to that breaking news, an 8.0 earthquake in southern Mexico,
Yes.
and there are tsunami warnings.
That's right. Seismologist Dr. Lucy Jones joins us on the phone right now. Dr. Jones, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
Yes, I mean, 8.0, significant earthquake. What kind of damage can we expect from an earthquake like this?
Well, what it looks like is that the fault is offshore, so nobody's directly on top of it. That helps reduce the shaking level a little bit. It also means the possibility of creating a tsunami. So good news, bad news on that one. I would expect, especially with older buildings, we're going to see more damage. We aren't getting... I'm looking at the USGS website, and I don't yet see an estimate of shaking distribution. There are some reports that have come in from people feeling it. So far, the maximum that we're seeing on that is intensity 7, which is a modern building is going to be perfectly fine. An old building at that level can suffer some pretty significant damage.
Let's talk a little bit about the warning system there in that area with Guatemala and in Mexico. Do you have any information as to how they get word out when it comes to tsunami warnings? Are they able to get people evacuated to higher areas?
I really don't know. I do know in some places I've been in South America, I've never been in this region, people are just taught if you feel an earthquake that lasts for a long time, head for high ground.
Okay.
You know, you really don't want a warning. You shouldn't need a warning. If you feel an earthquake that's a magnitude 8, you should just head for high ground.
Yeah, well, a tsunami warning has been issued, Dr. Jones, for the next 3 hours. We're hearing from Mexico, Guatemala, Costa Rica, and El Salvador. How likely are the chances for an aftershock?
Oh, an aftershock, certain. The question's how big. Usually with an earthquake of magnitude 8, you'd expect the largest aftershock to be 6.5 to 7. So, again, it will depend on where it is. If it's well offshore, that's not going to really do any extra damage. If it's on the down dip end and closer to the coast, then it could cause quite a bit more damage. And we'll just have to wait and see where it shows up.
Okay, Doctor, let's talk a little bit about the reason for this earthquake there. Just before that, I do have some information to pass along. We understand right now the tsunami warning is for Acapulco at 10:52 tonight, so just about 30 minutes or so for that. And also Cabo San Lucas at 12:35 tonight are the warnings going out that they're giving us for this tsunami. But back to the question, Doctor, about what do you know about the fault in that area that possibly created this earthquake?
Well, given the focal mechanism, this is almost certainly on what's called the subduction interface.
Okay.
So, you know, plate tectonics driving things around. The Pacific Ocean, part of the Pacific Ocean is going down underneath the Mexican peninsula, and this would be on that interface. To be a magnitude 8 and with this focal mechanism really has to be on that. That's why there's a tsunami warning. That's the type of thing that greatly increases the tsunami risk.
Well, obviously a different geographic region there, Dr. Jones, but just to give us some perspective for our viewers as well, can you kind of, you know, if hypothetically speaking, if this were to happen near the coast of California, what kinds of damage and, you know, that kind of thing would we be looking at?
Okay, we don't have this type of fault off of California. We don't have a subduction zone. You have to go up to Cape Mendocino. Oregon and Washington have this type of fault. Now, the size, just the length of the magnitude tells you how long the fault is. This length is going to be at least probably on the order of 200 miles. And that means 200 miles worth of the coastline is right on top of the fault. That's what's going to be so different when we have our big San Andreas earthquake, a 200-mile long fault instead of a 10-mile long fault like produced Northridge. We're going to just see, it's not that it gets so much worse damage. It's that you see it in so many different places.
We are talking with Dr. Lucy Jones. She's a Caltech seismologist about this 8.0 magnitude earthquake that happened just moments ago in southern Mexico. There is a tsunami warning for a number of countries there in that area. Just to mention, of course, Guatemala is one of them, Mexico as well, El Salvador. The doctor, if she put us on hold and had to talk to somebody, but this is all just happening within the last few minutes. Of course, we know just how serious and critical it is when it comes to earthquakes.
Sure, absolutely. And the Dr. Lucy Jones was telling us that, you know, for people down there, obviously, you saw them on the right side of your screen from earlier video, right when the earthquake happened, people standing outside their apartment buildings, just, you know, standing outside, not sure of what's going to happen next. Obviously, are there going to be aftershocks? Dr. Lucy Jones says for sure there will be aftershocks. Just depends on how strong they will be and when they will come, but they will come. And then, as Jeff mentioned, the critical, you know, concern with the tsunami warnings, because we don't know what's going to happen with those. And you see the people standing around there, and she was saying, get to higher ground. That's the best thing you can do right now.
And it sounds like to me, I mean, I don't know if they have any formal sort of warning system there, but it sounds like she says, and Dr. Lucy Jones, is that people are kind of trained there and known that if you have that rattling, that shaking, you know that's an earthquake, that you get to higher grounds. Just to